A unique documentary is about to debut in 70 theaters across Canada for a one-night-only showing. It's called Irreplaceable, and it takes you around the world to explore the state of today's family, asking what's gone wrong and how can it be fixed. In a moment, you'll meet the film's director and host, but first watch this.
A couple more questions. How important is your family to you?
Very important.
Can you tell me why?
If you didn't have a family, you would die because you need love to live.
As I contemplate the world around me, I'm perplexed. I've always believed in traditional family. Man and woman marry, they have and raise children. They remain committed for a lifetime. But every day in the media, the life choices of my neighbours, even in public policy, I seem to be told that I've got it wrong.
The biggest change that's taken place in education over the last generation actually has nothing to do with schools, but everything to do with what's happened to the family in the last generation. Dad is just not there on a regular basis. Out-of-wedlock childbirths have gone through the roof. We're at about 40% right now of all births are out of wedlock.
24 million children in America have no biological fathers in their home.
Was divorcing after many years of marriage.
Is it time, Danielle, to acknowledge the end of traditional marriage and embrace some new ideas about romance and family?
It's time for me to really get into my life. Think about me as an individual, not as a marital partnership. Why should people be in relationships that they're stuck in?
Saying I do till death do us part. Couples in Mexico City who want to get married, but not forever, may be able to soon get a temporary marriage license.
You're buying a car or a lease with an option to buy.
So I have to ask the question, does culture have it right, or is there something better?
Joining us now is the man behind this documentary, as well as in front of the camera, Tim Sisarich. Tim lives in Auckland, New Zealand, with his wife and 5 children, and he has over 20 years of experience in media, and he currently serves with the Ministry of Focus on the Family. Tim, thank you so much. Great documentary.
Thanks very much.
I had an opportunity to see it, and it's just a powerful impact to the people you talk with and the issues you deal with. Why did you and Focus on the Family feel it's so important to work on this doc?
A couple of things. One was that as we looked around the world and we saw that there were issues, we felt as a ministry, as an organisation, if we want to speak into it, we really have to know what they are. So the question is, what is wrong with the family? So let's take an honest look and say, if we were to look out the window, what would that be? What would that look like? And then secondly, we also thought it's really important to be able to give people tools on the other side of it. What's God's best for it? So this documentary is the beginning of something much bigger than that. It's a journey, really, that we're calling the Family Project, and that is looking at God's design for family.
All right, and we do want to talk a little bit more about that and explore the beginning and what's coming after this beginning. But what places in the world did you visit on this doc?
You know, you don't see it as much in the documentary as in the curriculum itself, but we went all over the world. We went obviously to New Zealand because that's my home, but we went across the US, we went to India, we went to Europe, we went to the Middle East, to Greece, to Israel, and we got a really good solid snapshot on the way family is viewed across the world.
Were there a lot of similarities, major differences, or what did you find?
You know, I found the fact that that around the world, people, when it comes to family, they actually have the same view. The issues are not that different. The struggles people are going through, it's the same the world over. And again, for us as Christians, we believe that points back to the fact that there is a grand design and there is a designer around that whole issue. So I actually found it quite exciting.
Well, what are some of those key factors in the disintegration of the family that you bring out in the doc?
We start out by looking at the issue of sexuality, or what we call cheap sex, that it's sort of lost its value in society. And as we start looking at cheap sex, we realise that when you start devaluing sex and sexuality, you devalue marriage. So, and as we started going through the process, we look at sexuality, we look at marriage, we look at parenting, we look at children and the value of children. And then finally, we come to the conclusion, or not a conclusion, we come to a place that says, really, one of the underpinning issues around all of these things is fatherlessness.
You talk to a lot of experts. What kinds of people and what were some of the highlights?
A couple of things there. So we spoke to a huge range of people, more so than even made the documentary. But we spoke to like people that were experts in their field, and it was interesting. We wanted to make sure that they were academically sound, but also theologically that they had an understanding of what the Bible talked about. And but I have to say, actually, more than the experts that I spoke to, the journey took me on this. So as a Christian, I wanted to say this. I wanted to say, I'm living a pretty good life. I've worked with Focus on the Family a long time. I've been a Christian a long time. If you really do your family like Tim Sisarich does his family, then the world will be a pretty good place. And I know that sounds sort of arrogant to say, but that's how I was thinking. So going through the process of making this documentary and speaking to the experts, they really just state the obvious, that the world is in a tough place at the moment. But the truth is that historically, we've been grappling with this for 2,000 years, for 4,000 years. You go read the Bible and you read stories about David and the other great men of the Bible, they're grappling with the same issues. And so probably more important to me is when we started also talking to people that have been through these struggles and how at the end they come to hold their faith really strong. And so this story comes back home to me. Instead of looking out the window and stating the obvious, I had to start asking the question, why does this bother me so much? Why am I so scared of what's going on in the culture? And I realised that actually I'm scared because I think I'm going to fail as a husband and as a father. And when I realised actually that God has this grand design and grand plan for me, I don't have to be so scared. I can actually engage with the culture, and I can engage with the culture with my Christian faith. And so, so more than the experts I'd want to highlight here is actually the greatest expert, God. He's infused us with His design and His blueprint. We just have to grab hold of it.
And your own family is featured in the documentary, which I thought was fantastic when I watched it. You see you interacting and just your family life, even when you're on the road, you know, Skyping back home with the kids. But tell us about your family.
Right. So I married my childhood sweetheart. We met when we were 16, married when we were 21. She's my absolute best friend. She's just she's amazing. And we have 5 children, as you mentioned earlier. Our oldest are twins, Matai and Ari. So, and then we have a little girl in between it all, and then our 2 boys, Levi and Tamir. So, our home is fairly chaotic. What you see in that Skype chat is pretty indicative of what home looks like. Yeah. But also, you know, Dr. Dobson talked about the strong-willed child, and I think we got all 5 of ours are strong-willed. So, yeah.
What do you hope viewers will come away with after seeing this documentary?
You know, when we first started making the documentary, I wanted people to see that the world was bad, but God's way was right. At the end of the documentary, I discover something about the world, and actually the issues that affect family today are much closer to home than we realise. And we have the power to actually impact the culture in a really positive way if we can grasp that. I don't want to give too much away, because but what I would say is I started out looking at culture. I realised it wasn't the culture I was scared of, it was the way that I'd been brought up. And I start talking about and exploring the issue of my own father and my own upbringing. And then as I start talking to people that have been through these problems, we realise that God allows pain for a reason. If He loves us so much, if He designed us before the foundation of the earth and thought about us and really thought into it, why did He allow that pain to happen? And there's a really powerful statement that gets made by a pastor, that it's through pain that we actually know the extent of God's love. So I would hope at the end of it, people say, okay, what can I do to change society? I don't want to be scared of it, I don't want to run away from it, but what I want to do is engage it, and I want to engage my children in it, but in a way that reflects God's love. God loves you for who you are, not who you should be, so be kind to yourself and be kind to those around you.
Family is God's idea from the beginning, and it's the basic building block of society, and it's so important to have that focus, and you know, appreciate ministries like Focus on the Family that are bringing this to the fore, and just with a doc like this that can help to open our eyes and to open discussions. Yeah. And that's what you're hoping to really spark out of this. You know, we're going to give the info as of how people can find a theatre near them across Canada on May the 7th. 70 theatres across Canada. But that's the start of something, and tell us about the rest of the story.
Yeah, so our goal would be on May 7 that we could fill those cinemas across the country. You know, imagine what it would be like if we could get 20,000 people into theatres across the country, and they're all making a stand for family. And it's the starting point, because what we're saying is, you know, even though on the most part people struggle, on the most part people are actually good parents. are good people. And so we want to say to them, hey, we want to give you some tools that enable you to live out God's design. We're not going to take you through a step-by-step process, but we're going to inspire you about the value of being a mother, the value of being a father, God's design for women, for men, for children. And say to them, if you as a father stay in your home, the impact that will have not just on your children, but on the culture is immense. So this documentary, Irreplaceable, is really the starting point or the trailhead for a much grander picture, which folks on the family are calling the Family Project. And the Family Project is a 12-week small group curriculum. There's so much power when people get together in a small group and they're able to share their struggles and their fears, knowing it's safe in this environment. And the power that comes out of that for transformation is incredible. We've seen it. We've seen it through the Truth Project and a whole lot of other things we've done. So the idea is we'll get you out into the cinemas on May 7, encourage you to engage with your church and engage local community in small groups and through the Family Project. And details on that, on the evening, you'll be able to actually buy the curriculum on an app on your phone. So.
And the website is?
That's thefamilyproject.ca.
Okay, thefamilyproject.ca.
Yeah.
And so, and then there's also one specifically for Irreplaceable.
Yeah, so irreplaceable.ca is for the movie. And in fact, if you go there, you'll get all the details you need to know for folks on the family and the Family Project. But yeah, so.
And how to find the nearest theatre to where you are. You can go on irreplaceable.ca and you know, see where it might be playing near you. It's coast to coast in Canada, 70 theatres, one night only, May the 7th. And let's get out. Let's support this great documentary.
Can I just say,
yes.
Before I go, if someone is watching and they think, hey, look, I think this is a great idea, I really want to help people get along, we'd love it if you'd contact folks on the family and say, I'd like to buy out a theatre, and then allow your church to go along for free. That, for us, we get really inspired when we hear those sorts of stories. So if someone's out there and feel that they can do that, well, that'd be fantastic too.
God bless you, Tim.
Hey, thanks
Appreciate
so much
your work
for having me
and
on.
the work of Focus on the Family. Keep up the great work.